Namaste. This is Yoga Therapy Podcast, and I'm your host, Shira Khan, yoga teacher, yoga therapist, and Ayurvedic wellness educator. In these conversations with experts in the field of yoga therapy, you'll find out what it is and how it can help you and your loved ones to reclaim well-being. We'll touch on physical as well as mental health, physiology, emotions, women's health, spiritual well-being, goddesses, and self-development in the fullest sense. Listening to another story can change ours, so thank you for showing up, and let's begin this journey together. Hello everyone. So today it's a solo, it's just me, and I wanted to talk about fear because one, I think a lot of us are feeling it. I'm definitely feeling it. And it's just come up in conversations a lot with friends and strangers, people I meet, new friends, old friends, family. And yesterday was a funny little encounter. I was in the supermarket and there was a lady in front of me with her 2-year-old son, and she was talking about the scanner and the conveyor belt. Well, he was talking about the conveyor belt. And I was wondering, was she only mentioning those things and about the beep tone and the light when you scan your card and all these things? And at one point I said it to her. I said, oh, so he's really into technology, is he? She said, yes, that's all he wants to talk about. If he freaks out when he sees dogs or anything unpredictable. And I was like, oh, that's funny, because I'm noticing that with everything that has to do in our society and with men in general, and a lot of this controlling and managing and just fear of the unknown, fear of not knowing what's going to happen, and that our society and the structures we've created over the last 5 millennia and that are now kind of needing to crumble, but no one wants to let go because it means a big mess and a huge cleanup, and lots of unpredictability, lots of uncertainty. And I've been feeling this for weeks now, very uncertain, very alone, even though I'm reaching out to people and I'm calling friends and I'm making certain to go out and meet people and do things and organize things. And I don't know if it's just me or if everyone's feeling this, or it's just my own personal stuff that's coming to the foreground. But I really want to open up about this because I think it's not talked about enough, because fear is such a deep emotion. There's also shame attached to it and guilt, because when we're in fear, there's a lot of paralysis. We don't move forward, but then is moving forward the only way every time? Should we also sometimes just listen to those fears and understand what is underneath them all and why are we so fearful? So I've been dating the last year or so, and the relationships, even though there's enormous amounts of chemistry, or sometimes there wasn't, but with those who were, the men seemed to shut down for fear of what might happen, fear of loss, fear of unpredictability and change, fear of emotions and feeling very strongly about someone and then it not going how we want. That is life. Life is not knowing. Life is unpredictable, spontaneous. Life happens. Trying to control everything, life stops happening. Trying to manage everything and be so proactive that nothing can happen naturally anymore is stifling in the end. And I don't know if my uncertainty and fears are associated to that, or to the fact that we've just been through 2 years of total uncertainty, and at times I even felt this was done on purpose by governments. I know this is getting very deep into certain topics that are very touchy at the moment. We shouldn't be talking about these things, but then again, I'm very big on freedom, and that means freedom of speech too. And I do think we should be looking at all these things because it's very complex where we are, and we need to all work together and look at everything, all aspects, if we're going to get out of this. And I don't mean to be so negative, but we do have to face the reality of climate change, and there's going to be huge job losses soon with the replacement of people through robots and automation, and you're already seeing it. And I'm wondering, I don't know if I'm the only yoga teacher, but I think there are other yoga teachers and yoga professionals and therapists. But I haven't heard anyone, I haven't had these conversations, but I do want to have these conversations. So if anyone is out there feeling and worrying about these things, please reach out. Maybe we can have a conversation about this, but about the unpredictability and uncertainty of our future. Like, are we still, though I do believe it is needed, yoga, in this world, especially now and even after, or maybe more so, I do, at the moment, if the trends keep going as they are, feel that there is not much future in teaching yoga. One, because there are so many yoga teachers. Two, because people have little time. Three, because now the economic pressures are being put on most working people, not so much the rich. So the gaps are just getting bigger, and that therefore people have less time and incentive, even though they need it, to go to yoga classes. And a lot of the yoga studios have closed, especially very big ones, and then also the smaller ones, and everything's had to go online due to COVID. But also now I'm wondering, how's it going to start up again? And yeah. So with this lady in the supermarket, I started talking about that I'm writing a book on emotions, the feminine, and unpredictability basically is what all the things that have been suppressed over the last 5,000 years are coming down to, is that quality of not knowing. So a woman, people say, oh, it's just her hormones, or she's perimenopausal or menopausal. And that makes us unpredictable or difficult. But then emotions also have been thrown to the wayside for so long now. But it is what gives us passion. It is what gives us joy and energy to keep going. And it's also what makes life worth living. It's what connects us. It's what binds us. It's why we fall in love. It's why we create our projects, our children, our lives, why we add beauty, why we innovate and make changes that are necessary. Also, this fear has a purpose. Fear has the purpose for you to stop, look, listen, observe, note, and then from that observation, what you have perceived clearly, hopefully, make changes, deep changes. If we're talking on a physical level, you have fear, you have to run away. You have to know which direction you're going to turn and run in that direction. So I've also had very full-on dreams the last few days of getting stuck in places and needing to decide quickly which way to turn. This is all to do with fear, and we can work with fear by calming the nervous system, by working with our vagal nerve. And we will do a little practice in a minute. But I still think we have to feel the fear, go into that fear, take the energy that's behind that fear, because it's very strong. It's like all this intense, constricted, gathered energy is in one place, usually in the belly somewhere. And it's preparing you to take off, to move into that direction very quickly. So I think we need to also listen to what it is that our body and mind, our psyche, are telling us to do. So yeah, so there's what we usually do with fear is we suppress it, we override it by doing other activities. We get to work, we start doing projects, we don't put ourselves in situations where we might feel that fear. We avoid, we ignore, or we can decide to divide ourselves from that person or the situation or the thoughts that create these fearful feelings and sensations. Or we can ridicule people, start shaming them and blaming them and projecting our fears onto others or situations such as wars, when really it's already within us. The war is within us because we know that the culture and the lifestyle that we have gotten used to are not sustainable for all the people on the planet. So there's only a few who can partake in that. And we're all professing that we want equality, but that would mean giving up a lot of luxuries. That would mean giving up your cars, TVs, all these things that we're using, technology, because I just saw something yesterday on the news about how all these batteries that use lithium, which is basically every computer and now those new cars and motorbikes running on electrics, they use lithium, and these mined by children in Africa, mainly in Africa, mainly in Congo. So 50% is made in Congo by children. So if we're talking about equality and that we want everyone, we don't want war, we also have to look at how we contribute to the consumer demands of those resources that generate wars, because that's what it's about, really. It's about power. It's not about Putin. It's about power and money. And so this is a very political conversation, but there's a lot going on in politics. And we were lucky in Europe. We could have ignored this the last few years before COVID, but now Europe is becoming very polarized as well, just like the US has been for decades. So now we're getting a bit of that medicine. And it's very disappointing and frightening, because if you haven't slowly been dropped into it, but thrown into it, like I feel I have been thrown into this kind of polarizing society, it's shocking. And I feel kind of paralyzed. I don't know how to move on. And that is another thing of fear. It's paralysis. So when you're in that freeze mode, instead of fight, flight, our sympathetic nervous system, we go into that, I believe it's the dorsal sympathetic, and then we go straight into freeze. So we don't know how to move forward, or we can't move forward. And it's a protective mechanism. It's not a bad thing. It's our mind, our psyche, and biology trying to protect us from making a wrong move and thinking there's no other option, so I'm just going to stand still. I'm just going to lie here. I'm just going to wait that it passes. So I don't know if other people are feeling this, and so they keep going in the fight-flight mode to create, to keep moving, to keep working, and to kind of avert the deeper issues and consequences of this all. Yes, it's a deep conversation I need to be having, obviously. I'm sorry if this is heavy for you. But I need to talk about this, otherwise I feel that I'm not being authentic. I feel like I'm being a fake and just having the nice and pleasant conversations that we all want to be listening to. But we do have to look at what is underlying all these things. How can we, when we finally do overthrow the governments that we have now, because they're definitely not listening to us, these political leaders. They have no interest in the average person, and it's not going to change without us demanding or taking command in how we change this. But then we still have to think about all the other structures, such as healthcare. I don't know, you call it hospitals in English, but in Dutch and German you say Ziekenhuis, which means, or Krankenhaus, which means sick house. So we have these sick houses. We don't want sick houses, we want health houses. We want proper health care, which means a lot more prevention and education, people needing to find out how they can take their health back into their hands and not be these infantile dependents on a medical system and scientific system, which has also become corrupted in the last few decades, but especially last few years. So yeah, that's another part. And then thinking about the children, our children, so much of their education that should be happening at home is also happening at school, and schools are already overwhelmed, they're underpaid, understaffed, and then they have to take the responsibility of teaching children how to eat, how to move, not to have too much sugar coming into the school, all these kinds of things, which shouldn't even be part of a school's curricula. And yeah, there's all these dark, deep, real issues that we need to be looking at. We can't just be positive and proactive, which was a big thing I've been shouting for the last few years when I realized how important that was. But now I'm coming to see we have to look at the deeper underbelly of the problem, because otherwise whatever happens next will just be upholding this system, or rebuilding one that looks the same. So I've lived in communities, I've lived in many different groups of people in my life. So when I was 18, I lived in squats in the Netherlands, and then I lived in groups we called tribes, in trucks, and we traveled around and we did free parties where we made the music, we made the backdrops, the flyers, we invited the people, we found the spaces to do these huge parties in with really amazing people and music. Sometimes we had 10,000 people coming to these parties. I've lived in hippie communities. I've lived on the beaches in Greece with, what do you call these people trying to live an alternative life. In Italy, also in a kind of squat scene. And what I always saw is that because of the examples we've had of leadership and what a community looks like, we end up repeating that, even though we're trying to move away from that society and culture and system, because we've only experienced that kind of domination system. Partnering hasn't been shown to us, not through our parents, not through our society. So we just end up doing the same. When it was trouble, when we had trouble within, there was always this either avoiding, dividing, overriding, shaming, ignoring, and suppressing, or dominating. So there's always a few who are more dominant than the others. But there was never this partnership thing, and that's what's really got to happen. And yeah, I even lived in France in one community, and we lived in a valley, and the valley was closed at the end, so you couldn't go anywhere. And I noticed the people who lived there like 15 years in that valley, and they were that, like that. You start to become like your surroundings. So you start to, the mind, the psyche starts to shape like your environment. So these people were very close. It was a dead end. And they wouldn't even leave the valley for more than a few days. And sometimes they'd plan to go for a couple of weeks, and then they'd come back after a few days, just couldn't handle the real world. which is also not an option. So what are we to do? How are we supposed to all change this world? And I do think we can. And I know we all want to. And I imagine even those in power who have become corrupted unknowingly or consciously, I'm not sure. Deep down, they also yearn community and real, authentic connection with themselves and each other, and to be acknowledged. I'm sure that's a big part of why they dominate instead of cooperate. Because they haven't been acknowledged for who they were when they were tiny little people or babies or infants. And because they haven't found that they could express or be themselves or do things that were unpredictable, do things that were emotive and creative and feminine, maybe even. And that has caused them to become the masters of organization, management, and domination, because it avoids that scary feeling of being unwanted, being unseen, being unloved, being unheard, being unacknowledged, which is a deep fear we all have. And it's funny, I'm reading this book called Humankind from, what's his name? Rutger Bregman. So in Dutch it's called Most People Are Good, Meeste Mensen Deugen. But this one was, it's also a historian who's wrote this, like Harari. But, it's much more positive light of human beings, and he shows that all these stories like the Lord of the Rings and other theories from Adam Smith, the economist, and Hobbes, that they're all portraying a light, and they've all been taken out of context. They only show one aspect of the human, and that deep down we are not selfish. So I can't remember who wrote The Selfish Gene, but also that was a big hit, but seems to be totally untrue, but no one ever went into that fact. So we are deep down not selfish. And that is another reason that I'm writing my book so passionately. But yeah, there's days where I think, why the hell am I writing this book? You know, but I've also come to find that through emotions and the hormones that we secrete, we are so in, even this is down to krill, all the way to us and whales and dolphins, we secrete these hormones and connect because of them. And we are made to feel and love and care. Like even wars are done. The reason people fight in wars is not because they hate, it's not because they're bad. It is because they care about each other. And that's what makes people in the end take up arms. So in this book, he also talks about how we can, that a lot of people in wars, the actual casualties don't happen close up because people can't actually shoot. A lot of guns are still empty, or people, when they used to have to fill the gun themselves, they were totally full because they didn't shoot. They were just pretending, or they would shoot up in the sky because no one wants to kill anyone. That's just not a human sentiment. And so killing happens from far away when you're distanced, detached, disassociated, and divided from the human aspect of being. So yeah, we are all good. Most of us want the right things. And for those of us who don't, we haven't had this secure attachment and deep love and connection. And so don't know how important that is and how good it can feel. And yeah. So one beautiful thing I read in that book, I'm not sure if it's true, but he says only humans blush. And he associates it to shame, but that's not true, because you blush when you fall in love. You blush when you're talking to someone who means a lot to you. We blush when we see someone stumbling or struggling. And it's because we have compassion. That's why we blush. It's not for shame. And I don't know if it's only us who blush, because you can't see a monkey blush because they have hair all over their face. So I'm not sure. I'm sure monkeys also blush, and probably dolphins too. I'm not sure about krill, maybe. But I found that very interesting, that blushing is such a unique thing. And yeah, most people still blush. So our human dignity and humankind, our common understanding is still there. So let's do a short practice and then we'll end. Getting yourself comfortable, sit on a chair. If you're on a chair or on a block, on the floor or a bolster, something comfortable, but make sure you have some room to move. So if you're on a chair, sit at the end of the chair. And we're just going to move the spine. So we're going to go into that parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest, to calm the nerves. And you're just going to round the back as you breathe out. Really push the back out and your head down. And as you breathe in, slowly reach up and forward with your chest. So you're rounding the spine towards the front. And again, breathing out. Make yourself nice and small, round. Concave the back. And breathing in, lift up. We're flexing and extending the spine. So as soon as you start to move the spine and the nerves in the spine, you're going into the vagal parasympathetic nervous activation. And just do that a few more times at your own pace. Breathing in, lifting up, breathing out around the back. And then coming to a middle position. Now we're just going to twist. So just turn to right side, opening and breathing in, coming back. And as you breathe out, go to the other side. We'll just do that 3 times each side. So this also massages the organs, the kidneys, and also the adrenals. But at the same time, you're massaging and releasing the muscles around the spine. That nerve, vagal nerve that travels through all the spine, is also stimulated here. And just reset, basically, and asking, okay, check into this moment. So we're coming back into the body, breathing out one last time on each side, and come back with an in-breath. So we're going to breathe out fully and just roll the shoulders up to your ears and then roll them back down. And just make circles 3 times on your back, lifting up the shoulders, bringing them back down, opening them wide, and then bringing them together and change direction. So my ligaments are popping, jumping over bones. Okay, I didn't do much yoga this morning. Now, just staying here, lift up your right hand, extend it over your head, make it long, and then bend your body, bend the whole spine towards the left side. So you're lengthening the whole side of your right ribs, body, chest. Breathe in, stay there for 3 breaths. And breathing out. This is also good. You can do this during work, in the morning, or just before going to bed. And then lift up onto the other side. So extend that left arm all the way up, make it long. You can even feel that your rib cage is lifted slightly from the arm extension, and then bend to the right. And just use your feet. If you're sitting on the chair, use your feet to strengthen, to ground yourself. Feel your body and feel the space between the ribs. Breathe into that. Relax the face and neck, the shoulders. Just let the skin drop. And breathing out fully, emptying the lungs, emptying the belly. Feel those ribs coming back together. Maybe you feel the skin even moving down your shoulders and back, your belly. One last time, breathing in. And come back to center. So now just feel your body, feel your feet, move the feet, wiggle the toes, press the heels into the floor, activate the thighs and relax. And just do that 3 times, pressing the heels, engage the bum muscles, engage all the leg muscles and relax. One more time. We're just activating the whole body, becoming aware of the whole body. Okay, and then do another twist. And you maybe feel some popping, releasing, coming back with an in-breath and change to the other side. And release, coming back with an in-breath. Take a moment to feel yourself here. And placing a hand on your heart and a hand on the belly. And just noticing the breath. Feel the breath. As you breathe in, imagine that it's like a wave rising. And as you breathe out, let the wave drop, fall, tumble. And again, breathing in, opening up. And breathing out. 2 more times, breathing in. Feel those hands moving as the wave rises and as the wave falls as you breathe out. And then just let yourself breathe naturally. And just feel the sensations under your hands. Is it warm? Do you feel the heartbeat? Or do you just feel the movement of the breath? What is it you're sensing? So placing our hand on the heart is very calming. It's instead of co-regulating with others, we regulate ourselves. It's heart coherence. Now we're going to take an in-breath, and as we breathe out, we'll make a humming sound like a bumblebee. And you can make it soft or loud as you like. What's going to happen is you're vibrating through this humming the whole of your cavities, but also the nervous channels. Okay, and that calms us. That also regulates us. So we call it Brahmari in Sanskrit, or the bumblebee. So we're going to take an in-breath, breathing in 5. And breathing out. Breathing in, so you want to extend the out breath. Two more rounds. Last one. I just want you to feel the vibrations or the after effects of the vibrations. And where do you notice them? Is it in your lips? Is it in the head? The cavity of the lungs and chest? Is it in your throat, the belly? And just notice the tingling or the sensation. And then become aware of how you're feeling now. And just absorb this. So often we move from one thing to the next without fully taking it in. Allow yourself to absorb whatever effect this has had on you. And take it into your day. Okay, so other things we can do for anxiety, fear, uncertainty is taking zinc and magnesium. So magnesium citrate, I think it's 100 grams. I'll have a look for 1,000. And zinc picolinate, which is 22 milligrams. Doesn't say how much the magnesium is. 400 milligrams and above is good. You can also think about licorice root. Drinking licorice teas is soothing for the adrenals and also helps to regulate our hormones for the stress, such as adrenaline, cortisol, and DHEA, which actually brings it back into balance. What else? Chamomile is very good. And that's all I can just pull off the top of my head right now. So I'm going to leave, and I hope you enjoyed the practice. And I'm sorry if this was a very deep conversation, but I felt like I needed to speak this. Otherwise, I wasn't being truthful. And seeing that's the second step of yoga is honesty. I believe we also need to be honest about the difficult things. So be well. Thank you for listening. Take care. And please reach out if you feel the need to or want to share something with me or come onto the podcast. I would really love that. Thank you, and have a wonderful weekend, Easter weekend, and take care. So thank you everyone for staying to the end of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. I really love doing these talks with these amazing people. And if you want to know more, just take a look in the show notes. There's plenty of links and ways to connect with either the guest or myself. If you want to work with us or find out more about us, just check out the information in the show notes. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend or week, and you'll be hearing from me next week. Bye.